everybody. Great to have you here. Welcome. Thank you, Alexine, for giving me this opportunity to speak today about mastering social presence versus personal brand. Where's everybody from in the room? Chicago. Atlanta. Fantastic. I'm from the UK originally, and I actually live in Spain. So for anybody who's from Europe, Kiev. I've been to Kiev. Great stuff. Who else? We'll wait for some people to come in before we get started. So we've got Maria, Michelle, Natalie, Lena from Chicago, Romania. Oh, fantastic. So all across the world. Is anybody here from Asia? No? Yeah? Good stuff. I see we're getting up to 20 people now. So if you want to drop where you're from in the chat before we get started. And it's great that you're here. Atlanta. So I've been to every city so far, apart from Romania. I've not been to Romania. Romania is a country, obviously, but I've not been. SLC. Where's that? PDX, Salt Lake City. Ah, okay, great stuff. So today I'm going to talk about mastering social presence versus personal brand. I'm going to talk about LinkedIn. I'm going to share a bit about my story before we start, but I want this to be interactive. So there are points where I will ask you questions. You can drop a 1, a 2, a 3, or 4 in the chat. Phoenix, fantastic. Love Arizona. Portland as well. Great stuff. So we'll just wait for a few more people to come into the room. Transylvania, I know. I have to go because I'm not far from Romania. I'm probably 2 hours flight. So it's in both places. They're close. Yeah, yeah. Good stuff. All right. So how many of you are active on LinkedIn? Obviously, you're account executives, you're in sales, you're SDRs. How many of you're using LinkedIn for outreach, which is great, but how many of you are active and posting on LinkedIn 2 or 3 times a week or more? Alexine. Okay. Anybody else? No. I'm going to come on to that before we when we get started, but just out of curiosity, not yet, but I felt like you can't go anywhere without it anymore. Yeah, absolutely. So there is maybe once a week, Sharon. Good stuff. So to give you a bit of background, I started post every day, 3 weeks, hang on, 2 to 3 times a week. You need to get more active. You stick with 1 week. Okay, so that's good. You're here. You know that you want to have some kind of social presence. So great that some of you are already starting posting. But not 2 to 3 times a week. Okay. So a bit about me. I've been on LinkedIn forever. I'm in my mid 40s. And so I'm, well, no, I'm not old, but I've been on LinkedIn since I remember LinkedIn in the days when nobody was using it. People were using it just for company posting, for events. People would go on for industry knowledge. It wasn't anything like it is today. And about 2.5 years ago, I switched roles. So I'd been in a role for 13 years as an individual contributor, working in advertising sales, and I switched into a SaaS role selling ABM, account-based marketing solutions, to governments, very long procurement processes. And I realized that I had to switch up the way that I approach my sales. And this was just around, so maybe 6 months after COVID, 6 months to a year after COVID hit. I realized it was something that I had to do differently. And I started going on LinkedIn. I started following people in the world of sales. I started listening to podcasts. And I stumbled upon Alex Seen, there's a good story here, on the Sales Success podcast. Now, I don't know if anybody listens to it, but this is a podcast where the top 1% of sellers go. So you'd be the top 1% in your company. And I remember listening to her story, I think, and you hadn't even founded Women in Sales at this point, Alex Seen. So it was all new, or didn't even exist. And I connected with you. I sent you a DM after listening to your podcast. So I was posting 3 to 4 times a week, good stuff. And I would do this. I would listen to a lot of podcasts, go on LinkedIn, find the thought leaders. And Alex Seen was posting a lot of very helpful content about sales. And I thought, I can learn from her. And I wasn't even thinking about posting myself at this point. I just was very inspired by what I was seeing with other people within the sales world, women and men. And soon after that, I was on a few of my discovery calls. My whole sales process had changed completely. And I thought, actually, I'm going to start posting, because I see that there's a lot of salespeople out there that might need some help. And if my post helps one person, then that's it. That's all it needs to do. So I would come off a discovery call. I might get 1 or 2 objections, or there might be a few questions that I wanted to ask. And I would just literally write out the post as I was thinking. So, how do you start a discovery call? What kind of questions do you ask? You uncover the pain and impact. So here was my discovery call. Or one thing that I also used to do, I talked a lot about cold calling. And I had a really bad cold call with the VP of marketing. And I posted this on LinkedIn. And I started, I've been cold calling for years, but we can always, in sales, we can always have like a moment where it's just a bad day, isn't it? And we get that person that answers the phone, doesn't want to speak to us, and hangs up on us. So I shared this, and it got a lot of likes and it got a lot of comments. And I just went from there. So I had kind of no intention to talk about marketing or account-based marketing. And that's what I was, the company I was working for was all about marketing solution and content creation, but I didn't post about that on LinkedIn because I didn't feel like it was something that I knew a lot about. I've been in sales for many years. I've been in sales now for 22 years. And at the time that I changed roles, I thought, it's about time that I put some of that knowledge out there. But I had no intention or kind of no idea where it would go. I just started posting 2 or 3 times a week. And then I would slowly get traction. So a lot of salespeople started engaging with my content. Sales team leaders, they would contact me. And it kind of, it very slowly started to gain momentum. I started talking about problems that sellers have. And then I would get on calls with some of my prospects. So I was still doing my prospecting on LinkedIn. And they'd say things to me like, oh, by the way, I saw your post the other day. I thought it was really good. You touched on something that, I've been telling my team to focus on, this, like how to deal with objections. And I thought, that's weird, because you've clearly seen my post, but you haven't liked or commented. And this started happening a lot. So that visibility, I was obviously doing my cold outreach, sending cold emails, cold calling using LinkedIn. But a lot of people would start to know me and know who I was by the time I actually got to them. So and in one instance, This was about 6 months ago. I cold called the VP of sales and he's like, oh yeah, I know who you are. You're that person on LinkedIn. Yeah, I always see your posts. I really love them. So again, this is something that I never expected would happen. And I wasn't even looking for it to happen, but it just became this big thing. So fast forward 2.5 years later, and this is me today, I decided to start a side hustle. So this was a year ago, March last year, based on the activity that I was getting and the interest from LinkedIn, and sellers were contacting me and founders and solopreneurs were contacting me too, because they wanted to improve their sales skills. So I kept my corporate role, carried on there, started the side hustle. That started to build momentum. And then in September last year, I then went all in on my own business. And this is something that, if you rewind to December, not last year, December 2022, I had no idea that this was going to happen. It wasn't, the goal was to build. I started a newsletter in December 2022, but I never imagined that I would be going all in on my business in September, end of August, September last year. So this was wild. It was beyond my expectations. And what I'm going to talk about today is you don't have to build your own business. You don't have to have a side hustle. You don't have to have a personal brand. But there's some key things that I want to show you, which I know some of you are posting, and you realize that it's important that you start to post more to help with your sales outreach. So I'm going to show you some different ways that you can do that. But I want you to think about what something that you don't imagine is going to happen, but can happen. So you never know who's watching when you post. And this is something that I want to have at the forefront of your minds. I want you to think positively about it as well. Because so many people feel, oh, my boss is watching, my colleagues or co-workers are watching, I'm too scared to post. And I don't want you to let that be the reason for you not to post. I'm just reading some of the comments now. Side hustles turn main hustles. Yeah. And I couldn't have done this without creating content on LinkedIn. And, I built my brand. I didn't have the intention to build my brand when I started out, but it was something that just became more and more possible the more I posted. And even on this journey, the content that you post today, if you're starting out today, that's great. The content you post in a year might be different. So you want to be open to that, and you want to be open to exploring the changes that you can make as well. So I'll get started. Regularly have now started there too. Okay, fantastic. So let me make this bigger. I actually have some questions for you, but I won't be able to see the answers. So I've spoken with hundreds of women in the last 2 years about LinkedIn and social selling. And there were 7 different things that I heard, and here they are, around the fear of, around posting on LinkedIn. And a lot of women, and I think this is men as well, fear what others think when they post. So I touched on this before, and I want you to drop in the chat as I go through these, which one applies to you. They feel uncomfortable about posting. They don't know what to post. They don't have time to post. Sometimes I heard this a lot as well. It's for marketing. It's not for sales, especially with social selling. There's a lot of sales leaders that still believe that it's for marketing and it's not for sales. There's people that want to post, but they're unsure about what topics to post on. And this is quite a big one. It's for Gen Zs. So out of these 7, and you can list 1, 2, or 3 of them, which ones do you feel most apply to you? I'm going to come back here now so I can see the answers. 3, 4, and 6. Yeah. It's content and cadence. Okay. Yeah. 3, 4, and 6. 6. Yeah, 6 is a big one. And 3. You feel uncomfortable, Maria. Yeah, and that's totally, totally normal. I felt that way too. And as I go through posting different types of content, I also feel that as well. The more I push myself to come out of my comfort zone with what I'm posting. Anybody else? So 2, 3, 3, 4, 6 are the most common ones. So it's perfectly normal to not know what. For me, it's fear of being judged. Oh, we're going to touch on that later on in the presentation. For not knowing what to post, one of the things that I suggest you do, and if you fear posting, what worked really well for me was showing up on other people's posts first. So making sure that you're commenting, you're obviously going to be commenting and engaging with your prospects' posts if they post, but showing up on other creators' posts and influencers. So these could be big creators, mid-sized creators, small creators, and industry leaders who, so if you're working in marketing or you have a marketing tool or you work in AI, you want to be showing up on those people's posts that post regularly about those topics. It's a really good way to build familiarity, because the more people see you in the comments, the more they're going to wonder, I'm seeing that Maria's commenting, but where are her posts? So by the time you post, people will already know you. So you're talking here, Lena, about gender and race. So it's a big topic. Okay, and so you're unsure about as well which topics to post on. There's some questions I have to ask you here. What do you know something about? Because you all know something, and you all have a unique knowledge or a unique take on something. For me, it's sales, right? I felt I could post about sales because I've been doing it for 22 years. But I was selling a marketing solution. So I could have posted about marketing, but I'm fascinated by marketing. I love marketing, but it really isn't something that I felt that I could post about. So it's okay to not know what to post about. You want to ask yourself questions. What do you feel really passionate about? So Lena, is it gender equality, race, inclusion? These are topics that you can start to talk about and share your opinion on. And some people mention they don't have time to post. And I get that with all of the sales activities that you're doing, it can feel like a chore, can't it? To think, oh, I've got to post. And when I started posting, I would post every day at 1 p.m. and I would literally think of the post 10 minutes before I put it out. And that's fine. Some people want to do that. What I found really helped me and was a really big game changer was scheduling those posts in advance. So every Friday, I would write my posts for the following week, knowing that, okay, they're done. I can just schedule them and I don't have to worry about them. All I need to do is engage before the post goes out and engage when the post goes out. Diversity, equity, inclusion. Okay, great. So you've got 3 topics there that you can talk about and share your knowledge on LinkedIn. You've had a weird fear that you'll lose real life if you go on social media because it seems superficial. That's another great point, Maria. That's a great point. It's like the metaverse, but there's real relationships to be made and to be had in social media. So I met Alexine. I'm now part of this great community. I've helped and serviced so many clients because they've known me from my content on LinkedIn. And again, I think one of the key things here is to manage your time on LinkedIn, because a lot of people, if you get into doom scrolling and think, oh, I'm going to put my post up, I'm just going to scroll. That's not a good way to go about building relationships. So when we're on LinkedIn, we want to use it as a tool of purpose and a tool of intention. We want to make sure that we're very intentional with our time, who we engage with, who we connect with, when we're using the platform. So I have a rule of I start 5 to 10 conversations a day. These could be people that engage with my content, or people that are looking at my profile, or following me or connecting with me, or people that I'm outreaching to cold who could be an ideal fit as well. But what I do typically before my post goes out, I'll engage with those 5 to 10 people who could be prospects, peers and competitors. So people like Alexine, for example, who are in the sales space, and people who are in maybe the personal branding space. And then I get engaged with industry leaders as well, who are part of the space that I'm in. I'm sorry, peers and competitors as well. So there's an approach that you can take with a strategy where you can do everything you need to do on LinkedIn within 30 to 60 minutes and still build those relationships. Get stuck in doom scrolling. Okay. Now, so on to the next part. Let's go back. There we go. There's one quote here that struck me by James Clear. It's not who you know. It used to be who you know. It used to be who you know for jobs, for pretty much everything in life. It's who knows you. So the power of posting on LinkedIn and creating a social presence is that it's going to work for you 24/7. If you think of the likes of Richard Branson and the brand Virgin, Richard Branson has far more followers and people connected to him. When he shares a post from his personal LinkedIn account, it will get far more engagement than him sharing something as Virgin, the company. And it's the same with Gary Vee. So Gary Vee has Vaynerchuk Holdings. If he shares a post from his personal LinkedIn, it's going to get way more engagement. People are going to buy into that and buy into him before they go to the Vaynerchuk company brand. So again, it's something to really think about. And some other stats here which may surprise you. Audiences that are exposed to brand messages on LinkedIn are 6 times more likely to close. 78% of sales reps who use LinkedIn outperform their peers. And you probably know some of this already. 84% of C-levels use LinkedIn in their buying decisions. So again, it's really important that you're seen, not just from a sales outreach perspective, but that they see your content. 40% of social sellers have closed 2 to 5 deals from LinkedIn. And it can also, social selling can increase your deal size by 35%. So just to have a look around the room, do any of these stats surprise any of you? Yes, no? Intellectual accounts. Maria's talking about the intellect. We'll come back to that. 84% surprises you. Yeah. C-levels tend to be lurkers, the dark social, right? They're not really engaging. They probably haven't posted or reposted something in 7 months, but they do go on LinkedIn. And the way they use LinkedIn is more for educational type purposes. They're not going on to post and to network so much as, say, we are. So they are there, and this is the thing, they are seeing your posts. When you see you've got impressions, you might have a lot of impressions, you might not, but they're there seeing your posts. C-levels feel high, but then again, yeah, they do spend time on LinkedIn, but the way that they spend time on LinkedIn is very different to how we would spend time on LinkedIn. And one of the things that happened to me last year, I had a C-level chairman contact me. He'd seen a lot of my content on cold calling, and he said, I need you to train my team. And he wasn't following me or connected to me, but he came into my DMs, and I ended up having a conversation with him. And then 3 calls later, and I'm then in Dubai coaching the sales team. So again, this is not somebody that I outreach to. This is their content was, my content was showing up in their feed. And I had no idea that this was happening. So this is the power of creating your social presence. Didn't know it was that high. Okay, great. And some more here on personal brand. So Oh, we've just done this one here. There we go. Why personal branding? Now, personal branding, I want to ask you a question. Does it give you the ick when you hear about personal branding? Do you think, oh, I just don't want to have a personal brand? How many of you feel that? Drop a yes or no in the chat. But from a career perspective, you creating a presence on LinkedIn and owning that presence, 70% of hiring managers say that a strong personal brand is more important than a strong resume on LinkedIn. Now, you've probably heard about this before, but it's almost like the death of the resume. They want to see that you have, a good personal brand, that you've created content, but at least you have a social presence. So it's really important to think about that. 71% of professionals believe that a strong personal brand leads to increased career opportunities, and it does. The statistics are out there. A study by Nielsen showed 83% of consumers trust recommendations from people they know personally. So the more you create content and get seen, you then become an authority within your space. So I think it was Lena talking about diversity and inclusion. The more you become known for that, the more you're seen as the authority and the go-to person. Even if you don't feel like that right now, you have that unique knowledge and that perspective on the world and on that particular space that you can share, and at least one person, and probably a lot more, can benefit from. 45% of decision makers use thought leadership content to vet organizations they may do business with. So it's really important that you start creating content. You don't have to be a thought leader in the beginning, but this is a journey that you're going to go on, and it's going to help you within your organizations, not just how you sell, but also if you want to move in the future, you want to change your career, then here are the compelling reasons why. So we'll talk about social presence versus personal brand. A lot of people feel very put off. A lot of sales reps as well feel very put off by the idea of personal branding. And I know it's such a big thing, and there's a lot of misconceptions. There's some people you think, oh, I see them and they post every day, but I don't like their content. I don't want to be perceived in that way. And that's totally fine. But as women, we have our unique voices. There were years that we weren't heard, that we couldn't get our voice out there. And now we have a platform where we can reach millions of people in any corner of the world, sharing about a topic that we love and that matters to us. So your fear around posting is completely normal. Has anybody heard of the spotlight effect? So the spotlight effect is you think that everybody is watching you. You think, oh, if I put this post out, my boss is going to hate it. My colleague is going to say something behind my back. And you've got to leave that at the door. In the 2.5 years that I've been posting, I've had around about 6 people troll me. So if you think all the times that my content's been seen in the last 12 months, 7.5 million times. So if you think about that number, 6 out of 7.5 million is really, really small. It's really, really small. And if you're going to share very controversial topics or a contrarian take, yes, you might invite some people who will disagree with you. But they're going to forget. If a post goes viral, people forget about it within 48 hours. And with the spotlight effect, people are too focused on their own world, on their own lives. So not everybody is thinking about you. This is something that in your mind, you put a post out and you think, oh, it's permanent. A lot of people have issues with it being permanent because everybody can see it. What are people going to think? But this is something that you have to really, really let go of when you start posting. And I know it's hard in the beginning when you're putting yourself out there. And another key point that I want to make, you do not have to be an influencer or a creator to be successful on LinkedIn. I'm working now a lot with solopreneurs, with founders, coaches and consultants who have less than 5,000, 2,000 followers, but they're doing very well. They're acquiring clients, and also sales reps who are, again, they're starting to post on LinkedIn, but they don't have a big presence, but they're still doing really well in terms of winning business and getting clients. So the most important thing is to find your voice. And I'm going to talk about that in the next couple of slides on how you can do that. How many of you want to change your career in the future, or potentially will consider LinkedIn in the future, and think that you need to increase your social presence because you want to change careers? I'm going to come back to the chat because I can't see. A seller with a good personal brand is a hybrid marketer and seller for companies, so you become a desirable candidate. Yeah, because technically what you're doing on social media when you're sharing your content, you're also marketing as well. So you're doing both sales and marketing at the same time. Good point there. Great stuff. And one thing to remember is you can share company posts, but I would advise against it. If you're going to share a company post, and this is a great way to start, if you're feeling that fear and not knowing what topic to post about, take a company post, but rewrite it in your own words. So don't repost it, because a lot of people do this, and this isn't going to help in terms of getting people eyeballs and people engaging with your content, because the algorithm doesn't favor reposting right now. But if you can take a company post and put it into your own words, ask some questions around it, it's a great way to start posting. So one thing I want you to think about is, before you hit post, who is this for? How is it going to help them? And why is it going to help them? So those three things to think about: the who, the how, and the why. Do you want to build an audience? Do you want to generate leads? Or do you want to do both? There are two other questions that you need to ask yourself before you're putting out your content. How many people feel more comfortable now? Just put a yes or a no in the chat with the who, the what, the how, and the why. So thinking about the who and the how and the why before you post. Great, Lena. So you've just transitioned to HR recruit. For most of your audience, HR recruiting. Great. That is totally fine. The more you start talking about, if you're going to talk about tech sales, I'm not sure if you also want to talk about diversity inclusion, start sharing content that appeals to salespeople. So it could be actionable tips, what to do, what not to do. Those followers and people, if you're in creator mode, those followers will come naturally when you start posting. So Anka resigned yesterday to become a career coach for women in sales. Fantastic. So your topic's all going to be about careers in sales, Anka. So that's great. Another thing as well is to bear in mind I have a few different identities. Yeah, sales leaders, entrepreneurs, great, fantastic, Alexine. And that's totally fine. I want to talk a bit about boundaries as well. And it's good to blend different ideas into your content. What I find, I didn't have content pillars when I started out, and part of what I teach now is to define your content pillars, because that's going to then generate ideas for you. So Lena, yours could be tech sales, sales teams, another one, sales people, being an employee as a tech seller. These could be some of your content pillars, but that will then help inform what kind of posts you're going to put together. And one thing to bear in mind is boundaries as well. So when you're posting, there might be things that you're comfortable doing that you're uncomfortable doing as well. So I've posted about 2 selfies in the last 2 years. I wasn't really comfortable doing it. I wasn't comfortable posting photos. So for me, posting selfies or posting photos of my husband or kids is crossing a boundary for me. So I don't do that. To me, it doesn't feel professional, and it doesn't feel that, people don't need to see that. But that's totally fine if your audience wants to see that. And it depends on who you're targeting and the kind of content that you're going to post. I post photos of myself now. They're not selfies, because my core audience, My core ideal clients are the solopreneurs, coaches, consultants, entrepreneurs who run their business. So they want to engage with me. They want to see pictures of me. But if I'm targeting CROs and C-levels with my content, I'm not going to be putting pictures. So that's something to really bear in mind there. I think pictures are a great way to build for personal posts and growth posts so people can identify with you, but make sure that what you're posting is relevant and there's a context within it for your audience. Are your audience going to want to see this, and why? Another thing about who thinks going viral is great, put a yes or no in the chat if anybody has gone viral. A lot of people think having lots of followers and going viral means that you're super successful on LinkedIn. Absolutely no. Going viral with your post should never be your goal. Now, your ego might love it. Oh, I've got like hundreds of likes and impressions, and this is great. Most of the time, nobody's going to come to you and buy from you when your post goes viral. You're not going to generate leads. And part of the reason of that is usually when a post goes viral, you're talking about an emotional topic or something reactive. So it could be like, I hate the 9 to 5. I left my job. I had a really painful, terrifying experience. And this is, so viral posts tend to be more generic. They don't appeal so much to your ideal clients. They appeal to a wider audience. What happens then is that the algorithm on LinkedIn will push that post to more people. The more people see it, you might get a lot of followers off the back of a viral post, but a lot of these people are not your ideal clients or prospects. So it's really important to think about that. You should always write for you and your audience. Have the algorithm in mind. And when I say have the algorithm in mind, it might be worth knowing which posts are doing well and which posts are not doing well. So right now, carousel content with 10 slides or less is performing well. Carousel content is a great way to build authority, talk about something and go into a bit deeper dive. So for example, it could be, here are 10 cold calling openers, or here are 10 cold call scripts as a carousel. It's a great thing to do. But it's think about the type of post that you're going to put together. Maybe think a little bit as well about the formatting of that post and what it's going to look like and what the algorithm is promoting right now. But don't have the algorithm at the back of your mind when you're posting. I just want to look in the chat to see if anybody answered with do you have the salesman recorded her layoff and that went viral. Yeah, so anything about layoffs that drive a lot of emotion, the 9 to 5, those posts go viral. And if you want to create that sentiment and talk, it's something really important. If somebody gets laid off or they don't get paid their severance pay, for example, these are topics that a lot of people are going to jump on. And these are important topics, but don't pay attention to the fact that you've got a lot of likes and you've got a lot of comments too much, because it can also be distracting as well. Do you have any thoughts on the acceptance rate to booking meetings? Okay, so we'll come back to that. And also what I want you to think about with your content is what you're doing here is you're attracting people. So it's not you going out and promoting yourself. You're promoting what you can do for people. And that creates that the more you post about a certain topic, the more you're going to be seen as a thought leader. And it's LinkedIn, it's still quite early on LinkedIn compared to the other social media platforms. So the competition this year has increased on LinkedIn. There's more people coming on, but I think there's 1 billion users now. There's just over 1 billion users on LinkedIn, but only 3 million people are posting daily. So, and I mean, when I say daily, 5 times a week. So the bar to entry and getting seen and being known is low. If you look at platforms like Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, it's very hard to stand out on those platforms because they're saturated. So LinkedIn it's a professional platform. There tends to be very few type of hate comments and trolling when you can compare it to the likes of Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. So I want you to think about that as well. The best time to start was yesterday, but the next best time to start on LinkedIn is now. I just want to give you some post examples of mine. So I talked a bit about this. There's essentially 3 types of posts, and you might have heard of top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. I'm going to start with this one here on the right, growth posts. So here I'm talking, again, I've made a very bold statement here. 3 years ago, I did a terrifying thing, a cold call to a live audience of 981 people. Okay, so this was a terrifying thing for me to do. I wanted to share this experience and what I learned from it. So I start with a very bold statement. I use numbers. Numbers set expectations as hooks. So those first 2 lines will get people to click this. You see this button here, see more. So the more compelling the first 2 lines of our post, the more people are going to click see more. The more people will click see more, the algorithm then pushes that post to more people. So it's one thing to bear in mind when you're writing the first 2 lines of your post, you might get an idea. It could be something like, here are 3 things that you need to think about when getting into tech sales. Great. That's a great hook because you've set my expectation. I'm interested potentially in getting a role in tech sales. I'm going to I think Lena, wasn't it? I'm going to read Lena's post because it looks like she's got something very interesting to say. This, on the other hand, is a bit different, but because 9 out of 10 people, or 99.5 out of 100 people, probably wouldn't do a cold call to a live audience. Even salespeople hate it. So yeah, I put a picture here, and again, this is what I'm seeing my audience want. A year ago, I wouldn't have put a picture like this on my posts, and I'm doing it more frequently. So this for me was stepping out of the comfort zone a bit. Some people would post a selfie. Again, I don't think that's appropriate for me. Moving on now to carousel. So this is actually a carousel. 7 terrible questions to avoid asking in sales. So these posts are really good because they build authority, but you're also educating your audience. I think this was 10 slides long. It got 16 reposts. So I've invited people to repost. And here is my call to action. It's a call to conversation. Which one gets you the most? So what I'm doing there is inviting people to go through the carousel, have a look at the questions. I actually put reframes in as well. So how to reframe those questions. Lots of people like these kind of posts. They're very popular. They get a lot of downloads, but people are commenting as well. So I'm inviting people to comment, and I'm engaging them in the comments and responding to those comments. And these are what I call middle of the funnel posts. Growth posts, the top of the funnel posts. So these are personal stories. And the middle of the funnel posts are the more educational ones. So again, this doesn't have to be a carousel. It could just be written as a long form post, and maybe with a picture like this, rather than a whole carousel. Carousels take time, so I don't recommend doing them. I recommend starting with short and long form posts. And then if they do well, you might want to turn them into a carousel later on. A lead gen post. So this is a bottom of the funnel post. Now, I've started here with a polarizing contrarian statement. I don't rely on content is king mentality in sales. So you probably heard of this, content is king. Now, I obviously believe in content to generate leads, and that's what I teach my clients. But I don't rely on content to bring me leads because we need to have a sales process. We need to have an outreach process. So I've taken a statement here and I've said, I don't rely on content is king mentality in sales. It can be dangerous. And I explain the reasons why. And I say you need a sales strategy. So I'm talking people through here the rationale of why you don't rely on content to bring you leads and to bring you clients. At the end, I put a PS with a call to action to DM me. So this is what I call a lead generating post, right? We're putting a direct call to action. My social selling program for LinkedIn is open for 24 hours. And I've gone into a bit of detail here and said, DM me. I can't read my writing. But what I'm doing here is getting people to come to me in the DM, usually with one word, DM me strategy or DM me bonus, to get to save your spot. So again, these kind of posts, you probably will see with these posts, they don't get a lot of engagement. They're addressing a specific type of your ideal client, but they do get a lot of people coming forward and sending you a DM. So I recommend a mix of the 3 types of posts. And if you're just starting 3 posts a week, but you want to look, let's say you do that for 2 or 3 months, you want to then look to be posting 5 times a week to get that visibility, and to build your social presence. And then once you've started posting, you need to measure what impact that's having and what kind of strategies are you going to then develop from that. So I've recorded last year all of the posts that I did from January to December. What I tend to do is repurpose a lot of that content, because somebody before was asking, I don't know what to post. And you never run out of ideas, but a lot of your posts you can then repurpose, maybe take the first few lines of the post, write different hooks, and then you've got that rest of the content. Because if you post something now and then post the same post 3 months later, nobody's going to remember. So repurposing content as well should be your friend. And again, focus on growing your community as well. So interacting with your prospects first, and then your peers, competitors, and other influencers and creators to grow your network. And if you're in tech sales, don't be afraid to engage with influencers and creators who are not part of your space. And I say industry leaders too, because it's interesting to learn what's going on in other spaces, and for you then to show up on content as well. Because the more you show up in the comments and on other pieces of other people's content, the more you get seen. So you'll get more visibility. People will be intrigued, want to know who you are, and they'll start engaging with your posts as well. And I believe in reciprocity. So there's some people on my posts who are mega fans. They want to engage all the time. There's people I engage with maybe over a certain period of time, like a month, and then I'll switch up. So I'll engage with their content for a period of time. And then the following month, I'll then engage with someone else's content on a more regular basis. So I'm always switching up who I'm engaging with. And make sure that you focus on the metrics that matter. So the metrics that matter primarily, are we getting leads from our posts? That's the main thing that you should be focusing on. Anything like impressions, they're in the background. So impressions don't really matter. And when you're starting out posting, your impressions are going to be low. It takes time to build. So building authority is is secondary to what you're doing in terms of your content has to sell and reach your ideal client. Oh, reciprocity for the win. Okay, so I've come to the end. Thanks for dropping my LinkedIn, Alexine. We had some questions, so I want to go back to them. So somebody here was talking about selfie posts perform well. Yes, they do. LinkedIn algorithm seems to like them, but seems to be, I've seen less of them lately, but I do see people posting photos. Don't tag people. There's a rule here with tagging. If you want to tag somebody, let them know the day before. Say, I'm going to tag you tomorrow at my post at 2 p.m. So they know to engage. Another good, if you're going to tag somebody and you're not going to give them a warning, have a look on their LinkedIn. If you've got your notifications on that you're online, you see a green light next to their name. If there's a green light next to their name, that means they're online or they've got their LinkedIn open. Engage, tag those people that are online, because they're more likely to see that they're tagged in the post. If they're not online, then they're probably not going to see that you've tagged them in the post. And within that first hour, so the first hour, the first 15 to 20 minutes is crucial in terms of engagement. So if you want to get more engagement, I'd recommend not tagging people, but only tagging the people that you see with the green light that are online. How do you know what the algorithm favors? Yeah, so there's various reports that come out. There's Richard van der Blom. He's the LinkedIn algorithm expert. He shares reports on what the algorithm is doing, what kind of content is getting promoted more. So it's worth it bearing that in mind. But all I will say is don't obsess about it either. So last year, if you remember, carousels were all the rage. There were the algorithm was really into carousels, and carousels still work. So it's just make sure that you have some different types of content. Don't be afraid to experiment with short posts, with longer posts, and to switch up your style. Got some to create your LinkedIn network. So so when you say to clean your LinkedIn network, so if you have any connections that are inactive and they're not part of your ICP, I would delete them, remove them as remove inactive connections, because if your posts are going out to people that aren't active, that means your posts are not getting seen and they're not getting that visibility. So the more you connect to your ICP, industry leaders and creators who are active, then your posts are going to get a lot of engagement. So that's one thing to bear in mind. Remove any connections that aren't active. You're going to Lena's going to 2 posts a week. Great, Lena. So that's the way to start. And there's no pressure. Don't put pressure on yourself. So start small and then think about upscaling that to 5 when you've got get used to doing 2 posts a week and enjoy it, right? The main thing is that you've got to enjoy it, because if it becomes a task, you think, oh, I'm just not going to post content. No, I'm not going to do it anymore. And what we don't want, there's a lot of people, there's even some big creators. 2 years ago when I started, they were posting very consistently. And now quite a few of them have dropped off. So for whatever reason that is, but we don't want to get posting fatigue. We don't want LinkedIn fatigue. So well done. How do you find inactive connections on LinkedIn? That's a great question. Have a look at when their last post was. Usually you will see, if they've posted like 3 or more months ago, to me, that tells me that they're not very active. If you click on comments on their profile, whose posts are they commenting on? If they're commenting regularly on posts, but they're not posting, that might be okay, that they are active. But if they're not commenting and they're not posting, then yeah, you could say that they're inactive. Richard van der Blom is his name. Richard van der Blom. He does a report every 6 months on the algorithm and what kind of content is being favored and pushed by the algorithm. So you might have seen in the last month, a lot of big creators started complaining because they said, my reach has gone down, my reach has gone down. There's been a lot of that, but that's because as well, there's more people coming onto LinkedIn now. So the competition is tough. So this is one thing for you to think about your profiles. Make sure that your profiles are very, very tight. A lot of people have like their SDR manager, AE, in the first part of the headline. You can still do that, but it has to be really clear who you help, right? Who are you helping? Are you helping salespeople book more meetings? Like that has to be your headline is the first thing that people see. And when you're commenting on people's posts, they see that first line of your headline. So I use 3 different formulas, but it has to be really clear who you help, not your job title, right? I see a lot of sellers with their job title, and that can go at the end of your headline. And it's also in your experience section as well. So it doesn't need to go on the headline. Somebody has a ton of content from Facebook where I discuss transitioning. Fantastic, Lena. So you can use that content from Facebook and repurpose it to LinkedIn. You could even use the same content. I also I follow quite a lot of copywriters like Matt Barker, Jasmine Alich, Lara Costa, because the way that they format their posts as well is great. So it's good to learn sort of, and there's a tool called Authored Up, which is a Chrome extension on LinkedIn, but it allows you to see your posts before you post them. So you can draft the post, you can view the post from a mobile, from a computer, or from an iPad. So you can see what other people see when they will see that post live. It's really good. But bear in mind, just like with cold emails, most people are reading their posts on a mobile device now. So you want to optimize the content for a mobile device. And what I mean by that is no paragraphs, no long pieces of text. Try and make it as easy to read as possible, because the easier it is to read, the more people are going to stay on your post. What does that do? It tells the algorithm, a lot of people are viewing this, I'm going to push it to more people. So formatting your post correctly, numbering it as well, using spacing, very important. I'm looking some more questions. Identifying pillars and repurposing content. Does anyone else have any more questions? We've got 1 minute. Yes, of course. So I have a giveaway for you here. It's the chance to attend Jen Allen's and Leslie Vanette's sales. They're doing a sales workshop in Chicago on April 16th. It's going to be massive. You have a free ticket from me, so I'm putting it out in here for a winner, and I'll leave that to Alexine to decide. Thanks, Sharon. Thank you, guys. All right.